Okay, let's open this briefing schedule Friday the 4th. First on our agenda here, item 1, Transportation Emergency Works Update. April 2025, I've got listed here Chris Edsel, Solidify Collaborative Services, Dion Van Ruin, Mark Taylor from Downer, and Blair King, Kingston Infrastructure. And I see we've got Kurt Martin there as well. Where you go? And Nick.
Yeah, morning, Mayor and Council members.
Morning, Dion. Yeah, we've got your presentation up there in front of us. It's just come up.
Yeah, thanks very much. I can see it.
Got you guys down there on the screen as well. So yeah, way you go. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we will be reporting for February, and we'll be including also some current updates as we go along. So kicking off with slide number 1, executive summary. Going straight on to Moya Street Rehab. Happy to announce that we started works on the 17th of February and works is progressing well. We're slightly ahead of program besides the recent rains yesterday and today. We're still on track to get most of the seal completed by Easter. Moving on to the reseal program for this financial year. Works were planned to start on the 10th of March, which did, and we're happy to also report that we've approximately completed 53% of the 200,000 square meter reseal program. This equates to approximately $1.2 million spent in the Greater Darwell area. Unsealed roads. February is still a dry month for us. Obviously, the rains have arrived now, and we look forward to getting stuck into the pavement strengthening program between now and the end of this financial year. Slips. On the 24th of October, we were engaged to price several remedial options for slips left over from the previous contracts ex-Cyclone Gabriel. To date, we've completed 9 slips. Some of the more complex slips are subject to time constraints, requiring detailed geotech investigation, some requiring land consents and lengthy procurement procedures. Some of these slips are also being delivered directly through the WDC KDC Storm Recovery Panel. We'll give a bit of a more update later on. Drainage. During the month, we cleared 41 number culvert ends and reinstated 1,507 meters of water table, and we responded to 12 requests for services during the month related to drainage. Victoria Street Rehab. Preliminary design findings have called for more detailed investigations to be carried out due to challenging underground conditions and underground services. And we can discuss that a bit more in detail further as well. Can we move on to slide number 2, please? Next slide. All right, health and safety. No major health and safety issues reported for the month of February. We continue with our hot topics every Monday morning at 7:15. We run 12 safety behavioural conversations during the month, each month, as well as critical risk observations. We also carried out internal health and safety audit, as can be seen here at Bickerstaff Road, all good. We had one near miss. One of our employees pulled over onto an unstable shoulder and got stuck, and the necessary procedures were followed, sharing the findings with the toolbox with the team, and the employee was also sent for a DNA test, which was negative. Nothing else further to report on health and safety. Could we move to the next slide, please? All right, slide number 3, requests for services, customer requests. We received 132 requests for services during the month, of which majority relate to the unsealed network. All response times were met for all call-outs during the month. As you can see, there was quite a drop in RFSs between December and January, mostly related to a lot of people being on holiday and people coming back and more reported in the system. But we've just received March numbers, and the overall trend is still on a downward trend, which is positive. On the start of the new contract, we were averaging just over 200 RFSs per month, and we're averaging just over 100, and with the latest numbers coming in March. We've also received a number of thank yous from customers across the Unsealed network this month or in the last month, which has really been positive and been passed on to the teams, which encourage us to even do more. So, yeah, moving on to slide number 4, sealed roads, maintenance and sealed renewal activities. So, as we're happy to report that all the enabling pre-seal works for this year's reseal program, 200,000 square meters of reseal program, has been completed. Just an update, we're 53% of the way through this reseal program, which in money terms sort of equates to $1.2 million worth of seals, new seals spent in the greater Dargaville area. Key challenges still, waterproofing of the network is still a real issue due to a backlog from previous years' deferred sites. Asset management is going to be absolutely crucial going forward and prioritising next year's Forward Works program. Moya Street, as mentioned earlier, is progressing well. Next slide, please. Unsealed Road. As reported earlier, February was still a dry month. Despite the dry challenges, we focused on wet roll grades during the month. We target high priority areas and worked on restoring shape corrections where needed. We've also used lime rock in certain locations to enhance pavement stability. We have a solid program ahead of us, kicking in from now, going forward to the end of the financial year, which is great. We look forward to that. And the roads that attended to during the month included Kames Road, Tara Road, King Road, Spionkoop Road, Luttrell Road, and Bickerstaffe Road. Next slide, please. Drainage activities. We responded to 12 RFSs during the month of February. 41 number culvert ends were cleared. 1,507 meters of water tabling reinstated. Just an update as well, a lot of drainage renewal activities have been completed on Settlement Road, Davids Road and Black Swamp Road as well. And a list of sites where we attended to drainage during the month, there, as can be seen on the slide, is Tatariki Spur Road, Guy Road, Kuramar Road, Scarrett Road, Cole Road, Bagnall Road, Kuramar, Schick, Cole, Tamaya, Surrey, Burgess, and Beamery, Borden, Chamble Terrace, and Colville Road. Next slide, please. So other maintenance and renewal activities. So it's just going a bit more into the slips. I'm sure Blair's going to give us a storm recovery update soon. But to date, we were engaged from the 24th of October, and since then we've completed 9 slips. 8 other slips were in progress last month. Just some update as well. A positive meeting was held between the NZTA and KDC to fast track the approval process on some of the larger slips, which is good news. And we've got, I think that's a couple more has been added since this report. Another 10 or so are underway to be started and to be completed before the end of June. And some of those include Whakapirau Road. There's actually 3 on that road now. Tangawahine Valley Road, Bickerstaffe Bull Road, Acadia Road, Mason Road, and Potter Road. The seal extensions, Settlement Road, we're happy to announce there as of today we finished, and we saved the ratepayers approximately nearly $200,000 on that road, which was good news. Davids Road, enabling works completed, and Kames Road, the preliminary design has been finalised for the second option on Kames Road, and we're busy finalising the estimate there to get stuck into that section of road as well. The rehabs, As previously reported in the previous month, Whakapirau Road is finished, Moya Street on track, and Victoria Street requiring additional testing. We've just completed some FWDs as well. Chris could possibly give us a bit of an update later on. Next slide, please. Just on the overall Forwardworks program, reseals, as I said, 53% for the way. It's more than likely we're going to be completed by the end of April. Moya Street still on track with most of the sealing done by Easter and finishing up landscaping into May. Victoria Street, this is largely dependent on the final design findings, but if all goes well, we could start in May. Seal extensions, as mentioned earlier, Settlement Road has been completed, Devich Road is on track, as well as Black Swamp Road. Kames Road, as mentioned, the new design has come out and we're just finalising the final estimate and works will start there, and if all goes well, we should be finished as well by June. Next slide are just basically summaries of what I've just discussed, or just in a written format. So next slide, please. And the next one. Right, looking at our cash flow expenditure to date, we're on track. So just the March estimated figures are in, and we're sitting at about total to date expenditure 12 million. So we're on track to ensure that we utilise the budget allocated for this financial year. We're also on track with the local 30% target spend on local suppliers. We've also had to bring in additional 3 local suppliers, namely BSG, Parata and Masons. This is to ensure that we offer the best value of money for our customers and to ensure that we deliver our program for this financial year. And that is it. I'll hand over back to the panel. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yeah, I did email through some questions a couple of days ago. I just wondered, have you received them? They were on Lawrence Road.
Yes, I do. Thanks, Councillor Williams. Mark, operations managers online, and we'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Handing over to Mark.
Yeah, morning all. So on Mitatai Road, we did put some lime on that road to bind. The existing surface on that road is a lot of loose aggregate. So it did have a lot of blue on it, which was segregated and washed clean like sealing chip. So we just imported some lime to bring that back in and bind that material up. After the storm event that we've had over the night, I had my inspectors go out and just inspect that road this morning for me, give me some photos of that road. And it's survived the rain and that we've had very well. So it hasn't turned to slush or anything else. So it's all still bound up.
Right.
The question about the lime works out that way, I'm not aware of any lime works out that way. I have asked my guys around here as well. They're not too sure about lime works. I'm not too sure where that comment or where that lime place is, to be honest. So that one I'm not 100% sure about. If there's any close line works there, that's more suitable lime. From my understanding, the suitable lime for putting on our road is basically Rural Way South, is where the strong lime rock comes from. Anything further north from the local sources of vast around here, it's more agricultural.
Okay, yeah. Look, that was just a comment that I had been told from a ratepayer who actually lives on that road.
Right.
So I thought I would just bring it up at the briefing. I'm not sure where it is either.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, that's cool. And just one further question that I've just had now thought of is also the Kaiwaka Mangawhai Road reseal that is scheduled to happen. Do we have a timeline on that now? I know the weather has kind of held that up.
I'd have to look it up with our chips and the guys, but I can find it out for you.
Yeah, this. Chris, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I spoke with Mitch this morning, and their intent is still, providing the weather's okay, that all the reseals will be still finished by Easter. So I'd say next 2 weeks. It's just purely as soon as the rain stops, they will be bang right back into it. So yep, that's the plan. Next 2 weeks.
Okay, great. And just my first question was Lawrence Road. I just mentioned about in the past when it's rained, that road has been quite slippy, and we've had members of the community and a school bus have issues with it. I just wondered if that could be inspected at some point just before we go into the unsealed maintenance, just to check that everything is still holding there and that there hasn't been any issues for community members, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We currently I drive through that road nearly every day at the moment, going to Devich, to that seal extension site.
Yep.
It's not. It's of course it's got page green on it, but it has got a running code on it at the moment. So I do keep monitoring. It is a bit corrugated. We're trying to get it into a maintenance program at the moment, but it's while we're in that area.
You can keep an eye on it. That's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Councillor Vincent, followed by Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to make a comment, but also ask a question. It's in relation to the recent slip on Wakapiria Road, which I get to see on a fairly regular basis. So I'm just asking for a friend what is happening there, because the local feedback just received today was that it actually is more complex than first realised, and in fact it's still moving. And so, because I had the impressions, like what you said in your report, is that estimates are waiting to be approved or something and being submitted for approval. So I would like to know about that, but also I want to give you some feedback as well. At the same time, same incident, because one of the local community here at Wakapiria made an inquiry about see if the road could be inspected because of all the recent ground slippage that's happened as a result of shrinkage, I imagine, underneath the foundations because of the dry conditions. And we've got all these little mini slips opening up all along the tar, well, in multiple places along the tar seal. And she was able to report that she'd received a call from someone from Downers after they had completed an inspection and provided a report which put her in the picture as to what was happening. And of course she shared that on the local messenger page. And there was another comment that came in response to that, was that, thank you, Brian, it just goes to show you the benefits of using the system for communicating your concerns rather than try to go somewhere around the back door. Because I took no part in that, but it shows that the system works, and I'm really pleased to be able to report that. I just thought you'd like to know that.
Thank you.
But if you could answer my question about that root point 10,000 slip.
Okay, through the chair, I'll jump in on that one. The large site originally was going to be what they call a share key, and council have approved it thanks to the conversation with NZTA, Nick and co. Jack Steed went on site yesterday with a farmer who pointed out some very large cracks that extend back to a side road. So the actual dropout is probably only 20-25% of the overall slip. And the farmer is offering his land for us to, farmer is offering his land to move that road away from it, although we'll still have to do some co-support. In other words, if we don't deal with the cracking that's there, he's in there with his front end loader trying to fill in the cracks in his paddocks because the sheep are getting caught in them. So the short answer is yes, we'll still be doing work on there pre-30 June, but we're also now talking with the farmer. I've had a chat with the geotechs this morning to do a more extensive survey to see how we could move the road across, which will also improve safety at that little side road where there's only 35 metres visibility to your right when you come out.
Okay, Well, that's much appreciated, because that same farmer told me about the extent of the slip in his property, and how he'd had to deal with it in his farming operations. And so I'm really pleased to hear that you, Jack, talked to the local farmer and got some local knowledge. Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howard?
I'm just unmuting. Righto. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Good stuff, guys. Look, I got to just have a couple of quick questions. You talked about the RFSs, and it's good that the numbers are coming down around about averaging 100 rather than the 200. But I'm just interested, what impact does this have, on average, on your planned monthly workflows or work plans? Dion.
Thanks, Councillor, for the question. Yeah, everything keeps tracking on as BAU. So obviously, the indication of these reduction in RFS is an indication that the network is getting into a better condition. But obviously, it gives us time to be a bit more proactive, looking at being preventative, carrying out some preventative maintenance, and catching up on the backlog from the previous years, left over, focusing on asset management and things, and looking at prioritizing sites going forward.
Okay, thanks. And just one quick addition. I think you did say early on in your presentation that your pre-seal work, I think, was influenced, the volume of it was influenced by pushbacks from previous councils. Was that correct?
I can probably answer that. No, it was more around projects had been deferred. So, sites have been pushed forward into subsequent years. So there is a bit of a backlog of reseals to complete. We're, I guess, just ending up pushing things down the road a little bit. So there is quite a bit to catch up on. But I guess the funding as well improves and increases over the next couple of years in your LTP. So that will also help with catching up on that backlog of resale work.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Good to see that we're making progress into the backlogs.
Councillor Lambeth.
Yes, thank you through the Mayor. Just a couple of questions. One a bit of a tongue-in-cheek one. Good to see that you've saved 200,000. Can I have that for the whole budget, by the way? But, so good to see those complaints coming down. I won't even get you to answer that. Would we be expecting all us, all my neighbours and the like, and all those people out the west there on those gravel unsealed surfaces, are the graders rolling out now? Is now the time when we start,
Yes,
because of the wet weather and the moisture in the roads?
That's correct. Councillor, we actually got quite an intensive program planned up from April, May and June. And it's the March report has actually been completed, and it's included in the March report with all the quantities and roads that we'll be addressing over the next 2.5 months.
Yeah. Thank you. That's reassuring, because I've been telling them, well, until it rains, we're not getting anything touched on there, because we moved backwards. And just to compliment I had a cause to drive up to Kaikoai, up to a meeting there a couple of weeks ago, and I was very, very impressed with the new sealed surface of most of Tangwahine Valley Road.
Thank you, Councillor.
I looked for faults and I just couldn't find any. So well done, guys. So it's really starting to show through. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a couple of questions. I see in your RFSs you've got a 20 vegetation-related request. What do they relate to when you get vegetation requests? What are they mainly about?
Oh, they're all, Mayor, they all vary, from overhanging trees, trees hanging into roads, and then also along curb lines, well, not curb lines, foot and path sections of work. So they vary.
Yeah. Could I just jump in there as well, please, Dion? So we have been talking with Team Vegetation. There's quite a lot of pampas I guess, out there on the network. So been talking with Team Vegetation about some change in chemical, and looking to do an additional spray pre-winter with some, I guess, residual sprays as well. So looking to handle that a little bit better, and hopefully those vegetation RFSs will come down as well.
Okay, further to that, since I've become aware of our roading, and everywhere I drive, I look, just like Councillor Lambeth and some of our other councillors, you become very conscious of what's going on out on your network. One thing that really concerns me is the number of trees you see still hanging over power lines and roads in our district. Do you work with North Power or our transmission people over those issues and work together to ever remove any before we have a storm and then they become a big issue?
Councillor, sorry, Mayor, I can't answer you 100% on that one. I'm not quite sure that responsibility lies with us with North Power, but I'll definitely get back to you. A good question.
I can answer part of that through the worship. Yes, where possible, because North Power have a first cut free policy, or they do the first, hopefully, removal of the tree as opposed to a trim. And the work that Team Veg do for us is around the stuff that isn't directly over the power lines, except North Power will chat to us if they see wilding trees, which is predominantly the stuff that you are highlighting, going into the network, and they're expecting us to deal with that before it becomes a problem for them. So what Chris was talking about, doing some residual sprays, the chat with Team Veg is around proactively dealing with this stuff while it's small. So basically the wilding wattles, the wilding pines, the wilding willows and everything else, so that we don't get it up and over those trees where we're requiring very expensive felling as opposed to take it down.
Thank you. And further to that, is there a huge cost difference between mowing and spraying? One of my concerns is when you spray, you kill everything, right? And then when you get a drought, because everything's dead, the ground opens up, so it cracks up. And then when you get heavy rain, your sides are falling into, quite often are falling into your water tables. Do you designate different roads for different treatments based on that threat?
Yep, I can answer that a little bit. So yes, I guess the chemical vegetation control is significantly cheaper than the mechanical. So you're probably looking at a difference between sort of $30 a kilometre versus $100 to $150 a kilometre for mechanical. So quite a big difference. We do try to limit the chemical spray to the first sort of metre to 1.5 metres from the edge of the seal, so that we limit that, I guess, that the risk of the cracking and edge breaks, because that's the next sort of issue, as we end up, when you do chemical vegetation control, you can open up edge break where the seal chips away at the edge of the seal. So we do have it's not a blanket. It's not a blanket approach. We do identify each road based on its sort of need and risk, or different areas. So we definitely take that into consideration.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important because there might be a huge difference in chemical spraying versus mechanical. But if the mechanical is leaving you, say, a thick, say it might be a Kikuyu base that's holding your bank.
Yep.
When it rains, it won't fall apart. Well, long term, it's probably still cheaper to be mechanically doing those roads that are at risk, I'd imagine.
Yep.
Yeah. Councillor Howard, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I do, and probably it's for Chris, because Chris, you mentioned earlier pampas grass and treatment of that. Whenever we go to Dargaville, we always note the growth and the thickening of the pampas on the North Dargaville side of Ruawai, right beside the river there. Is there any plans to cut that or spray that out or trim it back?
I couldn't comment, sorry, on the individual road, only because I'm not that familiar with it. But we've definitely been talking with Team Vegetation around that residual, having some residual chemical that will help with that approach. We do have to be a little bit careful around, especially around waterways and what sort of sprays, around the waterway areas. But the stuff that we are looking at is environmentally friendly. So I'll follow up specifically on that section of road you've just mentioned.
Would you? Thank you.
Yep.
Can I add to that through His Worship? Yes. Councillor, I think that area you're referring to is actually picked up under the drainage district. It's basically adjoining one of those large drains. One of the
Yeah,
that's Raupo Land Drainage District. So again, it's a chat. Jack Steed, who's with Downers, used to be very familiar with that area, so he'll have a chat to Wayne Crump on that.
good. Appreciate it. It's the area just north of or west of Tokatoga.
Yep, know where you're talking.
Thanks.
Do NRC offer any of our ratepayers some contribution to noxious weeds on our roads around here? Is there a contribution coming from them? Because it's their responsibility, isn't it, the noxious weed problem?
I'm not sure, sorry.
Yeah, they generally focus on private parties, I guess, for any grants. We can seek to get some funding in our 3-year funding cycle through the NZTA, but we have to develop a specific weed control strategy for them to endorse before they'll give us additional funding for that.
I noted you smiled because it was tongue in cheek a little bit. You got the responsibility of the NRC, but if you drive around Kerikeri, I worked for 20 years, there's acres and acres and acres of tobacco plant here now, and it's creeping into our district, and I don't see any preventative going on. And predominantly it seems to start on our roadways, doesn't it? Then creeps out onto properties. Anyway, thank you. Councillor Williams. Welcome, Councillor.
Thank you, through the chair. I just wanted to quickly just add some thanks to Downer. I noted that Mangawai Road, the drainage clearance has started. There's been a digger down there, and they've done 2 of those drains that neighbour the business that had issues with that. And also just wanted to say thank you for organising with NZTA, Fulton Hogan, the vegetation maintenance on State Highway 1 in Kaiwaka. It's really important for our community that narrow area is cleared. So just thank you for acting on that so promptly, guys. Brilliant.
Thanks, Councillor.
Any further questions before you ask you to stand down? So, St. John's, welcome.
Kia ora. Morning, everybody. The bag lady has arrived. I don't have a question, but I just want to add on to Councillor Williams has said there, and some personal thanks from the residents up Awakena Road and the drainage work that has been done up there that they've been waiting for years. And I'm sure the Gordon Street residents would be the same. So thank you for that.
Okay, do you want something to add there?
It's probably just a question that Councillor Mark Vincent raised. Downer at the moment are going around. The drought has, as you've seen on the state highway network and local roads, the drought has significantly impacted your roading network, Wakapira, Bickerstaff. Pretty much rattle off a list of roads where the drought has ended up with a lot of these shoulder cracking in areas, and now we've got the rain. It's a new slip path. So Downers are going around and their inspectors are recording those. Oneriri Road is an example. There's multiple of these. We're not treating them directly as slips per se, we're recording them, but then we'll work through Kurt on how we go to NZTA around a package, because NZTA are finding the same issues on their roading, a number of slumps that basically the ground is moving significantly and it's not going to self-repair.
Those cracks are slips waiting to happen.
Yes. Which is why we're picking them up now, at least, and we've got a track on the state of them, what the photos are, what the location, and in the meantime, that's why I touched on a site like Wakapira, and we're having the same fun with Tangahini Valley, one of the ones 4K up just past the Banana Bridge. Dealing with those, because if we can get those sorted, we're not going to, as we come into winter, we're not going to lose access for these roads. So that's part of the proactive work going on.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so it's not just wet weather, it's dry weather that impacts as well, and the combination of the two causes a lot of issues. Yeah. Right, any further questions? Okay, thank you for that update. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Next on our list is Dargaville Wastewater Treatment Plant Update. Clint Cantrell, SCO Consulting, will present this whole tonight online. Are you there, Clint?
We'll just get there in a sec, Mr. Mayor. He is online. We just got to, yeah,
He's on mute.
just got to unmute.
Do you want to unmute?
Clint, can you hear us?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Alana's just going to get the presentation up for the elected members, and we'll just hand over to you in a sec. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. We good? Great. Thank you, Alana. Clint, over to you. Clint, are you there? Morning, Clint.
I think you must have.
Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you now.
Yes, we can.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
With the team.
I can't hear you for some reason. I think I'll try to connect back in.
Wonders of technology.
Can you have a look at that picture? The meatworks have got a lot of pounds, eh? Not there. All those other ones are the meatworks ones, eh? Well, they just got the two down.
Yeah, Sullivan Farms is that one there. And that one. Do they go from there to there?
We'll just wait, team, for Clint to come back in. We had an action shot, Susan.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, Clint, thank you. We'll just see if we can
Sorry.
see you. No, it's fine. It's technology. It's the way it is. So you can see the presentation on the screen and you're ready to go?
Yes, I can. Thank you for that,
Brilliant.
Jason.
Thank you. Over to you, Clint.
Sure. Let me I think I can turn my camera on.
Yeah, all good. We can see you.
Okay. Kia ora, everybody, and happy Friday. I'll be brief in my presentation. This is to provide council an update on the Dargaville wastewater treatment plant with a particular focus on the estimated remaining capacity. Next slide. Just to set the context or the purpose is I'll talk about the performance of the treatment plant as of today, briefly on the influence that the Silver Fern Farms Meatworks has on the performance and capacity of the plant. I'll briefly mention upgrades that we've recently awarded contracts for, and then talk about the projected capacity for the plant itself. So just as a brief reminder overview, the Dargaville wastewater treatment plant in wastewater terms is what we call a classic oxidation pond. So the raw wastewater, the domestic, residential, and flows from Silver Fern Farms go into a large oxidation pond where biological treatment takes place. Also, the sunlight acts as a disinfection, so the sunlight manages to kill the bacteria and pathogens. And then we go through a final maturation polishing pond, and the treated effluent is then sprayed across a series of constructed wetlands before it enters the river as the final step. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot view of what the consent compliance report looks like. So where the dots are green, that means we're complying with the consent requirements, and where they go amber and red, we've tripped over the consent limits. So you can see some red and yellows under total suspended solids, or TSS. So as of June 24 last year, the plant was in exceedance of total suspended solids. All other parameters were fine. And then since June of 24 last year, the plant has remained compliant for total suspended solids. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Next slide. So just to summarize the performance of the plant, KDC was issued a revised resource consent for the treatment plant in February 2023, and that goes through the year 2043. The main change in the consent was increased flow limits. The pollution concentration limits were kept the same, but the plant is licensed to take additional flow as time goes on. As I just mentioned, the plant's been compliant with the consent since middle of last year. It's important to note that Silver Fern Farms represents about 50% of the total pollution load that the Dargaville treatment plant has to cope with. So the other 50% is made up of the residential commercial flows that come in from the wider Dargaville area. A couple of years ago, I did an assessment for council when the Dargaville plant was not operating very well, and we traced that back to a problem with the Silver Fern Farms pre-treatment system. So they have a system that's set up to reduce the level of loads from their meat works that are sent to the plant. They upgraded that system in 2023 and have been operating the new system since then. The performance is much better, but there are a few glitches that occur occasionally. And so the recommended strategy is for council to work collaboratively with Silver Fern Farms to work to optimize the performance of their system, because that does have a direct impact on the Dargaville plant and how much capacity is available. And as I mentioned, we are just now implementing recommended upgrades from our previous assessment of the treatment plant that was done a little over a year ago. So I'll mention what these are briefly. Next slide. So the first upgrade that's being implemented is what we call floating baffle curtains. They're literally systems that are stretched across that large oxidation pond. So the diagram on the left shows how the pond operates now. The flow comes in one side and goes out the other. On the right, you can see when we put the baffle curtains in, the flow has to meander and take more of a zigzag path to get through the pond. So the benefit that provides is it eliminates any kind of short circuiting of flows or contaminants through the pond, because there's not perfect mixing, but it also increases the time of travel. So we'll get enhanced treatment and disinfection in the pond by introducing those baffle curtains, which is a fairly low cost option to improve the performance of that system. Next slide. The other significant upgrade is the installation of inlet screens on the raw sewage coming into the treatment plant. So the photo that I've used is just as an example of a typical inlet wastewater screen. So these screens sit on a belt system. They capture the larger debris and so forth, and then the screens rotate through a hopper system so that the screens are constantly cleaned, and the debris that is removed is put into a hopper and then compacted into bags that are ultimately sent to landfill for disposal. So by taking out that coarse debris, that will also help the pond over time. And it's much more expensive to remove that debris once it gets into the large ponds than it is by catching it with these screens on the front end. Most wastewater treatment plants do have inlet screens, so this is fairly common practice. Next slide. I should mention that the combination of those two upgrade options, I think based on the recent tender prices, is about $500,000 collectively in capital costs. And those two upgrades will provide further assurance of the plant's performance and compliance with the consent. This table represents my estimate of remaining plant capacity. So the first one is if we didn't implement any upgrades and there was no performance in the Silver Fern Farm system, which is essentially a moot point because they have already implemented a new pretreatment system. We would pretty much be at capacity now. But with the implementation of the recommendations of the baffle curtains, the screens, and Silver Fern Farms new pretreatment system, we estimate that the Dargaville plant has a capacity for another 1,800 or so equivalent domestic connections. The Silver Fern Farms, if they chose to increase the capacity of their meatworks facility and introduce more flows and loads, obviously that would be subject to council KDC's agreement. That would significantly reduce the available capacity of the Dargaville plant. So I just point that out to say that Silver Fern Farms does have a significant influence on the performance and the capacity, both in terms of how their pretreatment system operates now, but also if they choose to expand the facility in the future through council agreement. Next slide. This is my my last slide, and then I'm more than happy to take any questions. So in terms of what we're doing now, we'll complete the installation of the baffle curtains in the screen and go through a commissioning performance assessment process. So I'll continue to monitor how the treatment plant performs, and then note any improvements to the effluent quality relative to the consents. And then the final step will be the recommended collaboration with Silver Fern Farms to see how we can help them optimize the performance of their pretreatment system to make sure that those glitches that we spotted can be stabilized and that their system operates as best as it possibly can. So that's it from my end. More than happy to take any questions.
Any questions of Clint? Clint, I've got some up there. I'll go through them. It's Councillor Williams, Councillor Vincent, Councillor Howard.
Thank you through the chair. This might be probably for staff. I'm not too sure. I sent through some pre-questions, and one of them was in our current long-term plan, there is $3 million in there for Dargaville upgrades to the wastewater plant. Is this work that we're talking about over and above that financially, or yeah?
Through the chair, so there's
I just want to come a bit closer, sorry, so you can hear.
through the chair, in the long-term plan, there's the 2.5 million for the PS4 and PS1 and $500,000 for Dargaville wastewater upgrade. I believe that's what we're talking about. So it is in the plan, in fact, and the upgrade to the plant is going in at the moment, but we haven't started the changes to the pump stations.
Okay, and just a question further to that. So in dealing with Silver Fern Farms and this trade waste agreement, is there going to be a mechanism in there for funding? You know, obviously this shouldn't all fall on our ratepayers. So I just wonder about the cost mechanisms and funding mechanisms for upgrades for them. So I'm just putting that out there.
If it's okay, I can provide an initial response and then others may want to contribute. So to my understanding, Silver Fern Farms on their own and have already invested several $1 million in their new pretreatment system, which was constructed and commissioned in late 2022 into 2023. So the bulk of the capital cost required for that have already been incurred. At this stage, in my technical opinion, it's more a matter of just helping them optimize how that system runs. So I wouldn't anticipate substantial capital costs to do that. It's probably more just tweaking how the plant is operated through collaborative inputs from council.
Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, Clint, I really like what you're proposing to do. It all makes perfect sense to me, as much as I understand it. One thing I wonder, is any sampling done of the quality of the receiving waters in the vicinity of the outfall from the system?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Vincent. Yes, in fact, there is sampling done in the receiving water, and that's actually required as part of the consent. I've not presented that data today. I focused on the direct plant effluent, but I can provide that information back to council if that's of use. But yes, there is sampling in the river.
Okay, yeah, because it has been said in the past that by adding the Dargaville Sewerage Scheme's contribution, it actually improves the quality of the water in the river. I was just wondering if that was still true.
Yeah, that's actually more common than people understand, in that the bacteria coming off the treatment plant, particularly for rivers that go through farm and pastoral lands, quite often, particularly in terms of bacteria loads and organic loads, the flows coming from the treatment plant could be cleaner than the receiving environment. That's not always the case, but obviously large rivers pick up contaminants from a lot of land sources that can increase bacteria from things like stock manure and so forth. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case here, but I can certainly report back with the latest data.
Oh, well, I would be interested to know, but it's not a deal breaker. Thank you.
Sure. Yep.
So
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Clint, thanks for this presentation. I was interested in the flow charts that you put up with the two pictures there. You talked about the inlet screens and how effective they've been. I'm just wondering, at the end of the flow, of the zigzag flow through there, is there any evidence to suggest there would be a benefit from an outlet screen?
It's a very good question. So What I would recommend is that we complete installation of the proposed inlet screens, because that alone would dramatically reduce the debris and material and what we call floatable. So that's the debris that floats on the water surface. Once that's done, I think part of the commissioning assessment, we can monitor the outlet flows for any remaining debris or material, and then make a decision on whether or not outlet screening is warranted. I don't anticipate that it would be. I think the inlet screens will probably do the job that's needed, and the rest of the material normally settles out in the ponds.
Yeah.
So, and because we go through that final wetlands process, I think the effluent going into the river is probably quite clean as far as any kind of debris or materials.
Okay, thank you. And so on that basis, once it comes through the new baffles and all that, any solids would just that's where it goes to the bottom of the ponds, right? And so you collect from there. It was just a matter of a thought of making sure. But if you've got the figures that suggest that it's not needed, that's good. That's great. Now this one might be more for staff, but if Silver Fern Farms actually went ahead and looked to invest more funds in expanding their plant, are we in a position to be able to charge them development contributions? It's probably for staff.
Yep, I'm getting crickets.
Crickets.
Yeah, we think, and then an initial question, yes, we think we should be able to. Maybe we look at that with an item later.
That would be good. Thank you, and thank you, Glenn.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you for that, Clint.
Thank you.
And,
thanks, Clint.
It's that update. Okay. The next on our list is the project delivery update. Kim Jennings, Brian Hagan, and Hayley Worthington. Welcome.
Work's a big employer, but a big load on us, isn't it?
Nice. Nice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and elected members. Kim's unable to be with us here today because she's very sick, so it is just Brian and I that you get the pleasure of this morning. So I'll take the report as read. Oh, sorry. I will take the report as read. I will just give Minor a second to do the technical report. Yeah, maybe you should. Can't see the kid. There it is. Just here. Okay. I think because you've unplugged mine can go. Which mine? Yeah. Yeah. I think if I move this over. It's not controlling, I don't know why. Can we just have that up there? No. Well, these guys have seen the report, which is basically the presentation, so.
They've been given the presentation as well. Maybe just rely on that for this.
Just look at it on my computer. It's beaming out to the. I know what the bigger that is. Oh, yeah, then we can just look at ours on here.
So just assume that the elected members are looking at their screens because they've got the presentation already team sent out to them. The public has seen what seen the elected members, I think it's fine.
We're on the side, and if you're not listening now, are you moving? Touching that. Oh, that's a bit.
And just push on through.
Okay. So I'll take the report as read. We'll start with this main page. This is the first report from the team. And so I'm happy for you guys to provide feedback around the report and what you would like to see and to set some expectations. This will continuously improve as we go on. But this report is covering the 90 projects that the capital delivery team are looking after. So this is excluding roading, which you've just heard from our roading team this morning, and also the operational CapEx as well. So we've got 40 projects that are currently in planning, design and tender. So there's a lot of projects that are just coming off the ranks at the moment and are about to get kicked off and started. 18 of our projects are fully complete, and you'll see in the report that 35% of those were within or below budget. Some of the highlights that you'll have seen in the completed project summary showed that not only were we on or under budget, but also on or under time expectations. And specifically the Mangawhai Community Park, I just want to call out, we were able to deliver that project, the original scope, 50% under budget, which meant that by linking up with the roading team and getting a bit of their money, we were able to fully seal the Mangawhai Community Park car park, as well as completing the stormwater drainage piece that was actually in scope. So we were able to provide the community with more than what we had originally planned. So just on this page that we're looking at the moment, you'll see one of the risks in the report that was highlighted was around staff capacity. So the manager operations, water and land drainage, that role has 50 projects sitting under them as a business owner. And I just want to flag that that role is vacant and has been vacant now for, I think, just over a month. We also have had some resignations in the project delivery space, and through the recruitment in that space, we had 40 applications for that role, but we weren't able to interview any of them because the salary wasn't high enough for their expectations. So therefore, we do have approximately 34 projects out with external project managers currently being delivered at the moment. We are going through a process at the moment for financial forecasting. So we hope in the next report that we're able to provide not just our actuals and our budget, but actually the forecasted amount. We haven't been able to achieve that to date. Because we're going through a bit of a process changing some of our financial management systems. Yeah, those are the key points I'm happy to make. I'm happy to take any questions. I know that Peter has asked for going forward to be able to show in that first slide the projects by location. She would like to see the budgets by location as well. And Councillor Williams asked for project budgets by funding type, so to be broken further down by funding types, whether it's by financial contributions, etc. So we'll also work to get that information for you in the next report.
Okay, questions? So Erin Wilson-Collins.
A dumb question. So am I reading this right and understanding correctly that the report is saying that there's only 2 projects that you're envisaging will need to be carried over?
No, that's not true. I think that there's about $5 million worth of projects that we've highlighted to be carried over, but there'll be 2 projects that we probably won't start at all. Yeah, that'll be completely.
Right, so you're not expecting all of these projects to be completed.
Yeah, some of the projects.
There are 2 that won't have been started at all.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and do these projects include all the previous carryovers as well? Is it all the project?
This is all the projects for the capital delivery team. So some of these projects are carryovers. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that actually Councillor Williams asked in the exceptions report to be able to see a difference between carry forwards and long-term plan projects.
Yeah.
We'll work to identify that in this report for next month.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Vincent, followed by Councillor Howard.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on that theme, to be abundantly clear, so a number of these projects, I'm guessing, would be multi-year projects as well, the ones that were incomplete in the current year. Could you just confirm that, or have I got that wrong?
Yes, that's correct. Some of these, like district-wide minor capital works for water or renewals, reticulations, some of those projects will be carried forward and they'll be multi-year projects with budget every year.
Okay, Councillor Howard, followed again by Councillor Aaron Wilson-Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Hayley. Look, I got a couple of questions. I think following on from Councillor Vincent's question there, could we have some additional identification of those projects that not so much their budget, but where they are just a single year, they're not going to go over, to identify that specifically, that they're going to be spent and completed within 1 year. The other query I had, if I can remember it now, related to, I'm going to forget it. I'll have to come back to you on that one.
So through the chair for the first part of that question, yep, I definitely think we'll be able to achieve that with forecasting. So you'll be able to see the forecasted amount to be spent within the financial year, or whether or not we're forecasting for it to be spent in the next financial year.
Good. I think that's the key thing when we come to these for, for advising us as elected members where we're at. So with this year coming to an end, do you have a realistic estimation of how much you are going to get completed or not completed?
I think that we've identified only, how many projects have we identified that we will? It's less than 5 projects that we're not going to complete at all. But yeah, I can provide that detail in the next report.
Thank you.
Right, any further questions? Councillor Aaron Wilson-Collins.
Just to clarify, sorry, you said in your talk that there was a role that's been empty for a month. What was that role again?
The manager of operations, 3 waters and land drainage.
So the report says it's been vacant since the 1st of July 2024.
Yes, so that's not true. I think we had that, it was vacant in July as part of the restructure. We got someone in and they worked with us for a short time.
Oh.
And then they left.
Oh. Okay. Oh, I have another question. When is there ever a case where the staff can go, wow, we're not going to get these done, do we just not start it?
Yep.
Then come back to council, rather because I just feel like the whole time in council we carry over and we carry over and we carry over, and the capital projects budget is enormous.
That's definitely something that Brian and I are very aware of. And so the whole point of the financial forecast is to give us really a lot more clarity in the carryover process. We do go through a real clear prioritisation process, and we do have the ability to move within buckets. So stormwater, we can move, say this is a low priority, we're going to move that budget to complete some other projects faster. So yeah, within those buckets, we can definitely speed things up or stop pieces of it.
Okay.
Further questions? Okay, thank you for that update, Brian and Hayley. Going to stop for lunch?
Yeah, I reckon, Mr. Mayor, we just stop for half an hour, right?
Okay, we're going to stop for half an hour for lunch, so we'll come back roughly at 12:21.
Thanks, everybody online. We're breaking half an hour for lunch.
Great idea.
Okay, welcome back to today's briefing. 4th of April, Friday. Our afternoon session will start with a item contract 996 Parks and Open Spaces contract extensions. Glenys McCarthy and Nick Bennett will present this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and elected members. It's an opportunity just to talk about the Parks contract year to date and the contractor. The contract's it's a 3+1+1 contract. It's a measure and value type contract, which really means that there is a lump sum component that is scheduled out on a monthly basis, and then there is a chargeable work component to it.
I'm not sure if we've lost sound online.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah,
Hello?
that's better.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Sorry, Nick.
Sorry. I think in summary, the contract is a 5-year contract, 3+1+1. The term is awarded based on achieving performance criteria. Performance criteria to date has been achieved, and therefore the contract in its second portion, which starts on 1st July, is awarded to Downers. This is just to talk about their performance and how they've performed to date, and probably a little bit about how we've performed as the contractor in relation to this contract. Glynis has got a presentation that she'll run through, primarily talking about how the contract and the performance has run over the last year.
Fantastic, thank you. You can see here Parks and Open Spaces, where we manage a number of things for Kaipara District Council. Our activities include things like park and roadside mowing, management, maintenance of sport parks, turf, cemetery operations, the civic gardens, horticulture, street and park care, tree care, stormwater detention ponds, graffiti removal, loose litter collection, public toilets, coastal structures, pathways, walkways and cycleways, native vegetation and wetlands, and the maintenance of our parks assets. So there's a fair amount of activity that goes on in that parks and reserve spaces. The contract 996, this particular contract started in 2022. We've had a long history with Downer, and as Nick's already mentioned, that this portion runs through until the 30th of June. The contract is set up so it's a 3+1+1, and based on this structure, this first extension period will expire on the 30th of June 2026, with the final expiry set for the 30th of June 2027, and the contract is very clear. It does talk about that if the Downers are fulfilling their or achieving their KPIs, then there will be a rollover into the first portion and then into the second portion, and if they are not performing to their KPIs, then there is an option for us to opt out and to re-tender this contract. In terms of what does Downers actually, what does it cover? So it covers the management of all of our council-owned reserves and esplanades. We've got 10 playgrounds, we've got 77 walking tracks, we've got 21 coastal structures, we've got 3 stormwater detention ponds, and we've got 6 council-run cemeteries and 3 community-run cemeteries. So this contract, the 4 main KPIs that we track and we report through to audit, risk and finance on a quarterly basis, are customer service and response times, quality, health and safety, claims and reporting, data integrity. In order for Downer to meet their KPIs, monthly reporting must achieve 100% compliance with customer satisfaction targeted at 95% or higher. Health and safety audits are required at least 95% compliance with no major non-compliance or infringement notices. And it's expected that there are 0 KPA fails to be deemed for good practice, and more than 3 failures indicate very poor practice. And performance is deemed very poor when there's over 3 consecutive months that may lead to early contract termination. And certainly when I took on the role in July of last year, I think it would be fair to say that we had had a period where we didn't have as much oversight as we could do, particularly in the Mangawhai area, which we have now redressed. So the restructure of July last year and some staff changes have meant that we have really bolstered the parks team. And our main focus now is to really work collaboratively with our contractor, but to lift performance. And one of the things that we are trying very hard to do is make sure that we are out in the field overseeing what they're doing and have a very good understanding of what are they contractually obliged to be delivering for us. The Downers are made up of, they've got a number of staff. Most of those are local, so they live locally here, and where possible, they do work with local providers. In terms of Downers having qualifications, they've got 2 staff with a national cert in carpentry. They've got 1 person who's currently got a level 3 and there's another person with a level 5, and 4 people working towards the level 3 HORT qualification. They've got 2 people with playground inspections, and so are able to complete those as part of weekly inspections. Their whole team have basic quals in traffic management, got 4 people that can work at height, and they've got 2 people that are able to work with mobile elevated work platforms. And internally, we're also trying to improve our professionalism. So we have 1 staff member who is now completing the level 3 HORT certificate, and we've got another staff member who's about to complete the playground audits qualification. In terms of kind of where are we going with this, we continue to look for areas that we can work with Downer to improve opportunities, to achieve value for money and an increase in quality of the service delivery. And we're working more directly with local specialists for capital work projects where appropriate. And I'll open if anyone has any questions.
So that's.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, thanks, Glynis. You probably heard some of the things we've already queried through Jason. And I guess the thing that comes to mind is, you've got people in Downer who might have done a certificate in horticulture or something, and you've got 1 person in KDC that's currently doing a certificate. But does anyone actually has any robust experience with horticulture as in parks type stuff? Do they actually have any botanical knowledge?
So again, you inherit parks teams, as I did. So I'm mindful of the fact that we don't have a strong pedagogy in horticulture in the team, and so that's why we're going through a degree of professionalisation. We have 1 staff member that reports to me through a slightly different team, and she actually has a great deal. So we rely on her when it's appropriate.
Well, my criticism of you.
No, I know.
You're coming into a role that's got to work with what you've got, but.
I've got 2 people, you see, so it's quite challenging.
Yeah, that's fine. But like you say that the strategy is to get out and about and see stuff being done. But if the people that are out and about seeing stuff getting done don't know what they're looking at, don't we get a bad outcome?
Well, in all fairness, I think that a lot of the areas that my team are going out and about, as you saw earlier in the presentation, they're looking at the quality of how clean are our toilets, are our berms mowed appropriately. I appreciate that there are times when actually they do need good horticultural knowledge, but if that's something that we require, then we will bring that in.
Well, the examples that we've raised, which you will have heard about, are going along the edge of the shared path and pruning up all the little native shrubs, whereas normally with re-veg planting, when they are bolting, you would top them so that they turn into a bush. so that they cover more ground, so you don't get the weed growth. But they've done the exact opposite. And so
I have addressed that particular that situation with the contractor. They acknowledge that they made a mistake there and that they're going to plant back in areas with no charge back to the council. Again, look, I appreciate that not everything is perfect, and we are working hard to improve the quality of the output from our contractor. They at times do make mistakes, and we try and come very quickly on the back of that, based on service requests and comments from yourselves and from the community, and then go and try and address it.
Yeah. So is it possible that we could get somebody that does have some knowledge, that knows the difference between, like what I saw, wattles being pruned as a tree rather than being cut off at ground?
Again, I went back to the contractor and challenged them on their practice. I agree that that wasn't great practice. The comment that I got back from them, and I've asked them to provide further information, is that because the wattles were now getting above the height that their staff are allowed to work at without taking in equipment that will raise them to a height, they had kind of lobbed the top of them off. I have asked for further information on that. I got that information last week. I went back to our contractor and questioned them on it, and I've asked them to send me something back in writing as to their practice.
Okay, yeah, I think it might be talking across purposes. They're talking about maybe 2 metre high wattles, and they just prune them from the ground up to maybe 1 or 2 metres, rather than cutting them off at ground level. It was just a weed.
Yeah, look, I have followed up on that, and I'm waiting to hear back from our contract with regards to that.
Brilliant, thanks, Collins. Any further question, Councillor Lambeth?
Thank you, through the mayor. Downers have had the parks contract for some years. Are you finding now that they're the main contractor for roading? There's a bit of crossover there and a synergy working, or are they still quite separate?
I think when we need to, would you like to answer?
Yeah. So through the chair, Downers Infrastructure has contract reporting through their transport division now, so there is some synergy within that business. From an operational business, they're pretty much 2 separate businesses, completely different skill sets.
And on the subject of skill sets, would your Parks and Reserve consider looking after a swimming pool and lifeguarding as part of your role? Exploring the avenue there.
We will explore anything that's put on the table in front of us.
Yeah, that sounds honest.
Okay, questions from Councillor Williams, then followed by Councillor Howard.
Thank you, through the chair. Hi, Glynis. Look, I just wanted to highlight a letter that I saw in the Kaipara Lifestyler, the recent one about toilet systems overrunning, and I think it was in the public toilets down by the Northern Wairoa Boat Club that were mentioned. And I just wondered, in the KPIs and the reports that you're receiving each month, is there anything notable in there about systems running and the water loss and things like that you can recall? Because it's obviously made it into the Kaipara Lifestyle, someone's concerned about it. So I just wanted to bring that up. Is that something that is checked regularly, I guess?
Yes, absolutely, through the chair. Certainly, weekly we have an operations meeting, and we talk about the service requests that we have seen. We have a system in place so that those service requests that go through to our contractor, that we track those. I have been made aware that there have been some issues to do with water in those toilets that you're referring to. We've also had some issues with water at other toilets currently going through drought areas, and it's something that we are responding to as quickly as we can.
Yeah, I just think further to that, it's something probably for the greater community to be aware of in their own businesses even as well. So yeah, no, look, it's good to hear that you're onto that, and yeah, thank you.
Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Glynis and Nick. What I want to do is go back to the point that Councillor Larson has raised regarding the botanical management and things like that. Do we have a list of plants or species that we absolutely want to get rid of, a la wattle, as an example? And that I know from my golf club experience of cleaning out wattle over many years, it's a job that never goes away. You've got to either be onto them or you use the sprays that kill them, or mechanisms that kill them. So that's really it. I mean, I think that it is important to really recognise what we don't want on an ongoing basis.
Through the chair, if I could respond, yes, we work very closely with the NRC, and particularly at the moment, if I look at some of the reserves in Mangawhai, where I can see the obvious growth of wattles and things like asparagus weed. We're working very closely with Pairoa Conservation Trust to get in and encourage not only our contractors to do where they are contracted to get in there and do work, but also to work with community groups. It is certainly something that we have to work really hard at trying to maintain. Certainly in January of this year, because of the winds, we had a lot of the spraying was disrupted, but in February we had quite a marked increase in our contractor spraying using glyphosate 500. They basically went in and sprayed 70 of our sites, which was as opposed to 19 the previous month. So we are very much trying to get on top of it, but I do realise there are times when you have to do quite an intensive effort. And Nick, did you want to add something into this?
No, but through the chair, I'd just like to follow up on Councillor Williams' point. You know, we're moving forward with this relationship with Downers. We want them to be our eyes and ears. So rather than reactively reporting stuff, we would like them to be on the ground actually reporting stuff and proactively fixing stuff. And that's, you know, the policy moving forward with Downers and the relationship.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Williams, you got your hand up again?
Yeah, thank you. Just further to the NRC point, do we receive any funding, or are we able to ask for funding for these pest plants that we have in the district? I just wondered what the interface was there, like what do they provide?
Through the chair, I'm not sure about funding, but that's certainly something that I will go and inquire about. In terms of, we work quite collaboratively with NRC, so they provide us with information, and we are working very collaboratively, particularly on the east, with Pairoa Conservation Trust. They are about to have a community day where they want to address some of the pest plants that are currently prevalent at the Mangawhai Community Park. And I have a meeting with them early next week around the areas that they'll focus on.
That's great, and I've just seen that on Facebook actually. It's on the Sunday the 13th and Monday the 14th of April, 9 till noon. So yeah, I'll share that around the community so we can get some volunteers.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Nick. My question is, you've kind of answered it a little bit by saying that you liked Downers to be your eyes and ears a bit. But how do you, between our council and Downers, how do we identify the work programs that we undertake?
Through the chair, we have a work schedule. So we have predetermined scheduled work with a rotating roster. So we know how often they are going to mow berms, for instance, or spend time in a park. That is pre-contract, and that's part of our scheduled work program.
Yeah.
Going forward, however, one of the things that we are trying to do is really tighten that up. So we have contract meetings once a month with Downer, and now we have operational meetings once a month with Downer. And that's really our opportunity now to make sure that that's more responsive of what we're actually needing in our community. Would you like to add anything onto that?
Yeah, through the chair. It's a measure and value contract. We've set out the frequency we'd want them to undertake the services and the cost for those services. They manage to that frequency. Conceptually, they put a plan forward for 12 months in advance, and then we would look at that plan on a monthly basis to change it depending on, a long dry summer, for example. There's no point having mowing a park once a month or once every 2 weeks if it's dried off, and move that frequency forward. Probably been a little bit lapse in the past in doing so. Ideally, a contract like this would be better if it was in my mind, if it was a lump sum outcome-based contract where you get ownership of the assets. There is no doubt in my mind that parks and reserves and playgrounds and gardens are highly emotive, but there is something that you can be really proud of. So a lump sum outcome-based contract drives ownership and accountability. People living nearby looking after the local asset drives better outcomes.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the reasons I asked that question about, how you set your work programs is just visually when you drive some of our roads, you can see that if they, used that spraying program earlier rather than when it's become knee high, it's so much more advantageous to have that nipped in the bud, because as soon as you start spraying, for example, when weeds are too high, you're going to start impacting the other plants that are nearby and all that sort of stuff. So, prioritising what gets done to me is really important when it gets done. So, Erin Wilson, Collins.
Thank you. The 77 walking tracks, does that include the Kaihu Valley Trail, or is that a separate?
I think that's deemed as a road. So it's a road asset, it's my understanding.
Okay, so it doesn't come under this?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. That end.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us that update, Dennis and Nick. Appreciate it. And next on our list is opportunity for Dargaville Library. Sue Davis, and will present this item in person. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Be aware that we've had discussions, I think, with you before about moving our staff upstairs, as two of our reception staff are sited below the main office, and that we've had some issues with aggression. And so we're looking at talking to the NRC about how we could then use the area below. And in discussion with that, and the fact that the council has put on hold the new library, we felt that perhaps this would be an opportunity to look at the Dargaville Library moving into the space. They've been looking for new premises probably ever since I've been at the council. Their current premises are very small, and so it would be an opportunity for them to get larger premises, and the bottom floor is probably about 450 square metres compared to the 266 square metres they currently occupy in Normandy Street. So the current NRC building downstairs is underutilised. Council knows that our top, the first floor, is underutilised. There's not as many staff as there were when we opted to build the building, or when NRC opted to build the building for the council. So this is an opportunity. I've had early discussions with NRC, and we've looked at the back part, which NRC currently occupies. They feel okay about moving their staff upstairs to share offices with us, so that we could, if the council wanted, we could investigate further the opportunity of taking the bottom floor as a library. There would be additional rental costs, which is obviously for the part that NRC currently occupies. So I'm just asking council at this stage, it's only a temporary solution, but likely a temporary solution for 10 to 12 years. And in that time, then we'd find a permanent solution for the library. But do you want me to investigate this further?
So Larson.
Yeah, so there'd be an increased rental cost for the downstairs, but would there not be a reduced rental cost for the upstairs if the NRC people were moving upstairs?
So the issue with the NRC is that when they initially took the part of the ground floor, they had about 10 people in that office. Now they've only got 2, so they only require space for 2 people upstairs. So.
But they are currently covering the cost of all of the downstairs, unless we find them another tenant, being our library. So there must be some negotiation that could be had there.
Yeah, so we can look at that, and there'll also be costs though of yeah, and they'll also share a kitchen with us as well upstairs. But that would be possible as well. But we would yeah, we would come back to you with what costs there were, and that'd be the next discussion. I'd come back to you within the next couple of months with what the likely costs were and whether you wanted to proceed with it.
Do you know how the reception arrangement would work if you were moving the reception upstairs? How would you get people in and out of the building and keep the building secure on that?
So that's what we'll be looking into. So I haven't done any work on that. It's not a project yet. I'm asking you if you want me to further investigate it. I'll do that, come back to you, and then you can decide if you want to go ahead with it or not.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you mind if I just, before you go to further questions, just jump in here as well? So, you know, this is a suggestion that was put forward to us by elected members. It was originally looked at the start when the building was built, but at the time, obviously NRC's needs were different to what they are now, and so it wasn't progressed any further. But I do know it was discussed. I just want to sort of paint a picture at the moment, because there is opportunity here. There's opportunity here for quite a bit of opportunity here for the Dargaville community. Okay, if this does occur. And I'll give you an example, okay? So if we were in a position to move the Dargaville Library to the bottom floor, and remember books are heavy, so the bottom floor makes sense, of the NRC building, which would be significant for the community, I believe. The Dargaville Arts Association, and I know they've written to you, and it's included in this public agenda, could be a good option to take over the current library. And to me, given how great that external library looks and how great the building is, excuse me, could be a good opportunity for the Dargaville arts community. I know, Councillor Williams, you asked a question. That's a council building. We don't lease it, so that's solely a council-owned building. Now, bear with me for a second. So the Dargaville arts community also sublease their cinema at the moment. They're part of the Memorial Hall for the cinema. Now, that's quite a complicated process and quite a complicated setup. But if, for example, the Dargaville Arts Association, who have been homeless for 2.5 years to help the cinema out, were able to find a home, you could find the cinema a home more permanently than there is now in that space, and they could stay there, depending. This is all about negotiation, right? And going to the town hall and the demolition side of it, if that obviously gets done, when that gets done, now that the budget's approved, there's a committee meeting room there. Now, there was a previous option for that committee meeting room, could have been used for the Dargaville Arts Association. That was an option, it still remains an option, but it also could revert to what it was used for previously and freed up for the community to hold their meetings as well as council meetings. So there are quite a few flow-on effects for that Dargaville community for what could be a minimal investment, in my view. I just wanted to sort of paint that picture for you so you sort of understand the broader implications for the community in Dargaville. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, C. Maris. I've got questions from Councillor Howard Williams, Councillor Vincent, and Councillor Aaron Wilson-Collins. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, we won't beat around the bush. I think it's a great idea, and I take on board what Sue has said and the CEO now, that there's a myriad of options to pull this together. So it does provide opportunity. I think when you think about for the extra capacity, short $60,000, subject to final negotiation, it may turn out to be,
Sorry.
May turn out to be quite a lot less. Who knows? But relative to what we were presented with recently, with the cost of a new Dargaville library. That is very small money, and I think it is the benefit for that community, and as been expressed by Jason, could be substantially more. So I am absolutely in support of looking at the bigger picture for this and moving it quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. Yeah, look, same sentiments as Councillor Howard. I think this presents some good opportunities for some community space that is much needed over there. So I'm happy for Sue to continue looking into this option, and also, you know, really talking to NRC about what this means for our community in respect to the, you know, the additional funds that they might be seeking. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up. Thank you.
Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also am keen for this to be pursued as an option. One of the benefits that perhaps hasn't been highlighted is because it's something I've advocated for many years, is, okay, they're in the same building as KDC staff, but if they share the facilities, I think that will improve the communication between NRC staff and KDC staff, because in terms of the customer facing part of the business, I think your average citizen wouldn't know the difference between what the regional council does and the district council does. It's just the council. And so I think there's another non-cash advantage in you know, promoting the NRC staff to the top floor, and certainly in using that space for a library, which should be like a modern building, so it should be well ventilated and insulated, and probably a more agreeable space to have that. And it should be a real boost with all the other opportunities that have been raised by others. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin Wilson-Collins.
Thank you. I'd be very interested in some further investigation. I obviously more space is the obvious advantage here. One of the criticisms of the current library location is parking. So the council building provides a lot more parking, which would be fantastic. And what's a real highlight for the community of Dargaville is all the school children that go there after school will no longer have to try and cross the state highway if that was the location. So there's some real positives, which are really, really great. I do have a few, I don't know if concerns is the right word, but things that I hope get looked into as well. The first one is the accessibility into that building. It's been reported to me that wheelchairs have difficulty, or some wheelchairs have difficulty getting up that ramp. And so our library needs to be the most accessible space we have in our district, because we have people of all walks of life who rely on our library services. So we cannot start excluding people accessing our library, and our current library is extremely accessible. And the other thing is I suppose I have a lot of questions, which I don't expect answers to right now, but a lot of questions around renting a building for our library and whether that actually gives us stability. You know, what happens if a community hub isn't built? What happens if there's not another solution in 10 to 12 years? How does that actually work? Because I would hate to see a library having to be closed because whatever, the NRC wants their building back, or wants a different tenant in there, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know anything about that, but those are just my first, what I would like to know about. Yeah, if you're looking into it further.
Thank you, Councillor Howard again, Councillor Lambeth after that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A simple little question here. How many of our staff are we looking to house upstairs?
Okay, I might take that. So I've reported some information to the Remuneration and Development Committee, Councillor Howard, which you'll be well aware of.
Yep.
There are, currently 54 workstations in Dargaville and 69 in Mangawhai. So there's 123 workstations in total, and we have around 173 employees.
Yep.
So there's already a deficit here, and that's why we have our flexible working approach. So that's cool. As far as numbers go, look, there's some days when Dargaville's full, and there are other days when it's not.
Vouch for that, because there's some days I can get a car park and there's some days when I can't.
Yeah. And so we will just adjust to what is needed here is probably the answer. There is, as you know, up there is quite a bit of space. So, there's space there to, I suppose, constrain the workstations more and to provide some space for customer services. There are options there for us, for sure.
Good. I was hoping that the answer might be that there would be more capacity provided as a result of this move, which again is another counter for the additional rental for the library.
I would say I don't think I can promise that. We'd have to look at it all and how tight we can get the workstations. But remember, if this does occur, you will be likely moving customer services upstairs, which would restrain the space, not provide more space.
Yeah.
And it would do it quite significantly, right? But what I am telling you is there is a lot of space upstairs. There's a lot of free space in a modern work environment.
Good.
Right? Can I just address the car parking thing? Yeah, I take that on board as well. All these details would have to be worked through later, but it's easy enough to put parking restrictions in to make it more accessible for people, all of that, and make it accessible for people. We also currently at the moment have an unwritten rule amongst our staff that the first 4 car parks outside the building are left free for people to use as well. So we do manage that.
I mean, parking outside the building. I just meant parking generally on Hokianga Road where I park. Go to my work. Happens to clash with the council staff.
Now, I'll just finish off by saying all of the conversations so far basically reaffirm that this is an exciting opportunity, and well done, Sue.
Okay, Councillor Lambeth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really following on from Councillor Wilson-Collins, my concerns was that we're going to be leasing a building and the tie-ups of that being a tenant. The other big thing is that accessible access into that front area. It's not good. It's difficult even for a young, sprightly fellow like myself getting up those stairs sometimes, but there's probably needs to be some work there. However, if we have a look at the possible solutions that we're going to have for the town hall and the opening up of a meeting room there, I will suggest that we strongly look at how shall I put this, a shared road system on Hokianga Road going across to the park and to the town hall and other facilities there. Maybe even looking at some pedestrian style traffic lights for the use of the park across the road and the town hall. This could then become quite a little hub area for activities. The town hall could then be used for, the cinema can be used, the unused Citizens Advice Bureau, whether that's going to be going back, that meeting room can be all used as a hub for school holiday programs and the like. So there is a little bit better format to that, rather than being on the edge of State Highway 12 with trucks thundering past the front door. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions or suggestions? Thank you, Sue. I think you've got a good, clear direction there. Okay. A cup of tea or not?
Mr. Mayor, we can push through if you want. We just got to, if you want to have a cup of tea for 5, because we've got to move into public exclusion.
Okay, it takes 5 and we'll come back at 1:11 past 1.
11 past 1 it is, 5 minutes.